Hey, James Hayes with Don's Appliances. Today I'm joined by Rob Sobek, um,
Hi.
also with Don's Appliances. So today we were going to talk about on things to consider when you're replacing a product, and predominantly I think we're going to just talk about like spacing allotments, but a couple other things to check out. So refrigeration.
There's the big things would be like, what is your actual space? A
Yeah.
lot of times you'll have a customer walk in with existing dimensions and it's of the physical refrigerator, and we don't know about the surround.
Mm-hmm.
There was, in the 80s and 90s and even early 2000s, fridges, there was no standard depth and cabinet depth,
Yeah.
and the heights were more like 64, 65, 66
Mm-hmm.
instead of 70 to 72. So we need your actual dimensions of where it's going. That's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, that's probably my most common response back when I ask about sizing is standard. Unfortunately, it's not a thing. And then also, where is it going to be placed? Because there's that whole triangle kind of system that designers like to use, and I don't think it's as much of a thing anymore. But your refrigerator always ended up at the end of a row of cabinets jammed up against the wall, which is a huge problem with these modern refrigerators. I think everyone is going for larger capacity, and a lot of times they do that by increasing the depth of the door. And now, where your refrigerator used to swing out maybe a 1/4 inch on a 35 and 3/4 inch wide case, it opened into a 36. Now they're opening two,
Up to
three,
6.
yeah, inches
Yeah.
outside the case. So if you're up against the wall, guess what? There's probably like 3 or 4 refrigerators that can go into that space now.
Well, to that point, just to give them a little shout out, there were like 2 or 3 fridges that would fit, and the door wouldn't necessarily get to 90 because of the handles. But then LG developed that zero clearance refrigerator.
Yeah,
That's really been a godsend,
sure.
and hopefully we see more of that in this industry, more across LG's lines. Not that I think it needs to be in every single refrigerator necessarily, because it is restrictive as far as like how deep the door bins can be,
Hmm.
how far your crisper bins can pull out, and things like that.
Sure.
But it's been huge.
It's been a huge problem solver. So, refrigeration, know those couple, just your space, maybe bring in photos if you're looking to replace so we can see what's going on too, but definitely grab some measurements of the actual opening.
And your doorways, from the
Yeah.
front of the house all the way to the path of least
Yeah.
resistance. Use your best judgment of what way you think will go.
Yeah.
The doors do come off of the refrigerators, so in a cabinet depth we need at least 25 and a half to 26 inches of pathway. A full depth, depending on brand, somewhere between 30 and like 31 and a half is what we're
Sure.
going to need all the way through.
And then other things that, questions I'll run into, I end up asking people don't know the answer to is when they're replacing a dishwasher opening, standard cabinet height on like most new constructions, 34 and a half. But guess what? If you ever redone your flooring, you put down a piece of 3/4 inch board and run up to the bottom of your dishwasher. Now your opening's only 33 and 3/4.
Well, don't forget all the people that redid their flooring. They had the old linoleum, and then they had LVP over top of it, and then they put engineered hardwood over top of it, and now they're down to like 32 and 3/4.
Yeah, so there's solutions for that, but we need to know, and the solutions are limited. So you can always sawzall an old dishwasher out. We won't necessarily, but you can, and
Yeah.
then but you can't sawzall a new one in.
Right.
So knowing where your plumbing is located, and a lot of people don't know the answer to that one. So the real easy thing is it should be underneath your sink in an ideal world. If it's not, there's like one, maybe two brands you can use in there. So glance under your sink and see if you have a water shutoff valve feeding over to your dishwasher cabinet, and then you have a drain line coming in.
And if it's not there, then take the toe kick off your dishwasher if
Yeah.
you're capable of that, and look underneath. Because if
Yeah.
you see a shutoff valve, or you see copper, or you see both, we're going to have a rough time replacing your dishwasher.
Yeah. Yeah, if you come in here and you can't answer that question, you're probably not getting the Bosch. I'm going to sell you a GE because it'll make everyone's life a lot easier once it's in there. So, wall ovens are another one where I have a lot of people coming in replacing, these
And calling it standard.
15-year-old decors, where they were 48 inches tall, 49 inches tall. There's one brand left that does that, Fisher Paykel, well, Blue Star too.
Blue Star too.
In both those cases, you're $8,000 to $11,000. So it's maybe not right for everybody. But when you go to replace that, a model number helps a lot because amperage and other things can vary from unit to unit. So if you bring a model number in, we can kind of cross-reference, but then also measuring the actual face of the cabinet. A lot of people will try to get me cutout measurements. I don't necessarily care about your cutout measurement because that can be modified. I need to know how tall in the face of the cabinet you could go. So measure from the drawer underneath, because assumingly that's what most people have underneath is a drawer, to the set of cabinets that are at the top of it, and give me that total measurement between those two spaces, and that can really let me know exactly what can go in there.
And that cabinet face width too,
Yes.
depending, because we have people that walk in and they have a 24-inch wall oven installed in a 33-inch base cabinet.
Yes.
And they don't have to be as limited as they think that they are if they just walk in and say, I need a 24-inch double oven.
Yeah.
The great news is you have option A and option B. That's
Yep.
it, but you might not need to be cornered like that.
Sure. And then I had touched on amperage, and that is kind of an important thing because it can be 30, 40, 50 amps that are available in all flavors. Go look in your breaker box downstairs and just find the wall oven one and see what the little set of numbers is on the end of that. It'll say 30, 40, or 50, and that can really make a big decision on what's not going to trip that breaker every time you fire on your oven.
Or even if it doesn't trip, I mean, you could put a 40 amp wall oven on a 30 amp breaker and it might not trip it, but then the oven is not going to work correctly and you're going to think we sold you a dud appliance, and then it's a whole host of issues after that.
Or if the breaker doesn't trip, then your wiring catches fire, and that's never a good day.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then cooktops, check your amperage on your cooktop too. But the other thing, a lot of people will measure the top of a cooktop.
Which means nothing.
Yeah, so generally I know your cooktop's 30 or 36 and 21 deep. That's probably 90% of the industry. But the cutout underneath is going to be the important part, especially if you have a stone counter. So,
Which I'd say is probably more than 75% of replacement business now, in this area anyway, is stone countertops of some kind.
And there are going to be models that can fit into most cutouts. And every once in a while you'll run into an issue where there is nothing and you're cutting your stone counters, which is not inexpensive. It's messy. You got to find an outside company to do it.
That's even willing to do it, which that's few and far between anymore. A lot of these stone fabricators, they want to sell you new tops, which is totally understandable as a fabricator. But modifying, they have to tent off that entire area.
Yeah.
I mean, just to cut a 1/4 inch off every side of a cutout, it's probably a 6-hour job.
Yeah. So what you could do to kind of figure this out, one of two options. Find the model number, which is usually on a sticker on the bottom of on the cooktop itself. So you got to crawl under there and get a photo of that. Or most of these cooktops aren't actually glued down or clamped down. If you reach underneath, a lot of times you can just lift it up out, turn it slightly, set it on the counter, and actually measure your actual opening, if that's a possibility. Now, if those aren't options for you, we do offer measuring services. So, So
you pay $100 and we'll send any appliance type, and we'll send somebody out to pull the appliance, measure the opening, measure the maximum available, and that'll help us as salespeople find what fits your space.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of other options out there. Ventilation's a nightmare. Just real quick, if you got downdraft, just find the contractor. You're probably going to need it. There's no simple replacement.
You'll definitely need it.
But if you want to know a little bit more, donsappliances.com will show you some offers. But in these scenarios, you probably need to talk to somebody, and you got sales experts like these two here, so where we can probably help you sort these things out. Thanks for being here, Rob.
Love it.